Franchise Interviews. From Easton, Pennsylvania to Sydney, Australia, you're listening to Franchise Interviews. Franchise Interviews. Welcome to Franchise Interviews. Franchise Interviews has been giving an up-close, behind-the-scenes look at franchising and entrepreneurship. Listen to interviews with franchisers, franchisees, franchise authors, franchise experts, and attorneys. And now, welcome your host, Marty McDermott, and Franchise Interviews.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to a very special edition of Franchise Interviews. We're for over 14 years now. We've been asking the Frantrepreneurs one-on-one. I'm your host, Marty McDermott. I'm the president of Franchise Interviews, and we have a great show today. Well, we're meeting with Yianni Kosmides, the founder of Apola Greek Grill. And Apola is the most authentic Greek gyro you can get without buying a plane ticket. And we're going to talk to Yianni about that in just a moment on Franchise Interviews. So stick around because we have a great show.
Are you one of those special people who are willing to go after your dreams and goals? Are you ready to fulfill that dream of owning your own business with the security of a proven brand, the opportunity to take control of your future and own a Rita's Italian Ice franchise is within your reach?
Rita's is seeking success-oriented individuals who are ready to make a change in their life, and Rita's offers unparalleled training and support to assure your success. And did you know the frozen treat industry is a recession-proof industry, and there are Rita's in 23 states currently with 540 stores open. Rita's Italian Ice has been around for 25 years and is listed as a top-performing franchise by the Wall Street Journal.
Now here's the really good part. Rita's Italian Ice is a unique and amazing taste treat. It's smoother than a snow cone, and it combines ice with real fresh fruit. The real fruit adds dramatically to the taste, and it comes in over 40 flavors. The ice and fruit are mixed on site and made fresh daily, and it is delicious.
You'll want to know more about this exciting and successful franchise opportunity. Go to www.ownaritas.com and get all your questions answered. That's www.ownaritas.com to take control of your dreams and future today. You don't want to wait any longer to be a part of this adventure. www.ownaritas.com.
Hi, this is Connie McDermott, Administrative Assistant for Franchise Interviews, LLC, and you're listening to Franchise Interviews.
Franchise Interviews. From Easton, Pennsylvania to Sydney, Australia, you're listening to Franchise Interviews. Franchise Interviews.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to a very special edition of Franchise Interviews. We're for over 14 years now. We've been asking the Frantrepreneurs one-on-one. I'm your host, Marty McDermott. I'm the president of Franchise Interviews, and as we were saying earlier, we have a great show today. Well, we're meeting with Yianni Kosmides, the founder of Apola Greek Grill. And Apola is the most authentic Greek gyro you can get without buying a plane ticket. Hi, Yianni. How are you? Welcome to the show.
Good morning, Marty. Good. How are you? Thank you for having me.
I'm doing fantastic. It's great to have you on the show, Yianni. We always like to ask our guests, where are you calling from today?
I'm calling from sunny Southern California.
That's fantastic.
9 a.m., about 55 degrees.
Well, I know we got 3 feet of snow here in Easton, Pennsylvania, Yianni. It's been snowing for I think 3.5 days now. So God bless you. You're lucky to be in California today, aren't you?
Well, I figured I'd rub it in a little bit.
Thank you. That's okay. That's fantastic. I mean, you have a great story too, Yianni. I mean, when we talk about Apola Greek Grill, I mean, we really have to go back to, I think it was in 1977. Did you want to kind of go back to that time and talk about how this whole concept came about?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's my dad came to the States from a little farm village in Greece. Learned hard work working on the farms back then. And imagine Greece in the 70s wasn't like the U.S. in the 70s. It was one black and white TV, I think, for the whole village, and one phone for the whole village, something like that.
Wow.
So he actually came here for agricultural engineering, of all things.
Wow.
And ran out of money, unfortunately. He came with a scholarship. He ran out and started working as a fry cook. To make a long story short, bought a restaurant in 1977, grew it, started growing from there, over 20-something restaurants in his career. And then he thought he was done with restaurants when we went to college. He sold his last place while we were in USC here in LA. And a couple years later, 2010, we pulled him back in. My brother and I decided to get back in the business because that's what we knew how to do. We enjoyed it. We loved it.
Right.
And a few restaurants later, we've done drive-through restaurants, fast food restaurants without drive-through, full-service diners with bars, with bakeries. And finally, we decided, you know what, it's time to do something for us.
Right.
We've been doing all these to grow and because that's what the area called for, but we couldn't find an authentic true Greek gyro anywhere. So we decided it was time to do it.
What a story.
In 2017, we did the first Apola. After a few years planning it on the couch at night after work and finding the right suppliers in order to be able to call it truly authentic, we finally pulled the trigger.
Wow. So you grew up in this business then, didn't you, Yianni? I mean, from a young age. I mean, you've really been exposed to this business. I mean, it's what you know, isn't it?
It is. It truly is. I mean, we actually grew up in Greece, and my dad was always back and forth in order to take care of the business here, but also spend time with us and raise us with the same work ethic and values and morals that he was raised with.
Yeah.
So our summer vacation, actually, let's say school closed June 5th or May 5th, whatever it was, 2 days later we were on a plane to come here in California and work the restaurant. So it was our summer vacation. I remember pulling up a milk crate orders at the register.
Wow.
Because I couldn't reach.
It's an amazing story. When I heard it, it kind of, not to compare it to my life. My mom, she is originally from Tunis, Tunisia. And kind of a similar story to what you experienced. My grandfather was also a farmer, and he came here. But it's really the American dream, isn't it? For you to grow up in that business and now, kind of share everything that you know. But this is yours, And I think it sounds like it's a really exciting time. How do you typically describe when you're talking about Apola Greek Grill to, like, let's say it was like a prospective franchisee, Yianni, like you were at a franchise show and they came up to your booth and say, so what do you do? How do you typically describe the concept to someone?
Well, there's a couple different approaches I would take, but more than anything, it's all about authenticity and the brand. I mean, there's a couple brands out there that are trying to be Greek or claim to be Greek or, throw a chicken salad which has lettuce in it, but that's not a Greek salad.
Right.
Greek salad has no lettuce. A true Greek gyro is the hand-stacked pork and the hand-stacked chicken. Granted, we do have the beef and lamb, the ground beef and lamb like people are used to here in the U.S., but we offer all the true authentic proteins, all the true authentic recipes I have passed on from, some of them from my grandparents. We still have a couple of my grandma's recipes that we use, some of my dad's, some of my mom's, and some that we have adjusted for dietary restrictions. So all this has come into play from the beginning with standardized processes and procedures to be able to offer the guest a truly authentic Greek meal, truly from start to finish, truly authentic Greek meal in a build-your-own setup, kind of like what people are used to from Subway or Chipotle. So the customer still has full control over their meal while still getting authentic ingredients the whole way through.
I saw you on a couple of interviews, and I kind of snuck it in the beginning of the introduction. I heard you say once, Apola is the most authentic Greek gyro you can get without buying a plane ticket. I thought that was very clever. I said, well, I heard my marketing background. I said that is brilliant, because it's true. As you said, it's authentic, and I think that's fantastic. How has technology played a role in your business? I'm sure, since the old days of 1977, when you were working as a kid and to where you are today, technology plays a big part in your type of business, Yianni. How do you use technology?
So if we go back to when we were in Greece and my dad was here with business, he also used all the technology that he had available to him. And at that time, it was the fax machine.
Yeah.
I remember every week
Wow.
we were there, just every day we had to make sure there was enough paper in the fax machine for him to get his
Yeah.
reports.
Yeah.
You know, so, but still being a little bit more old school, where we had to adapt because we learned from him, but we had to adapt to using new technology, right?
Right.
We've integrated all our cloud POS systems,
Yeah.
you know, with our online ordering, with our apps to check all our reports, cameras on the phones, everything. So we have
Right.
full control over all our restaurants basically from our phone.
Wow.
Whether it's task management, everything, anything and everything. And this technology, actually, in the way that it's helped is, one, it's helped us grow. There's no way to grow if you're going 100% old school. You can grow, but you're probably losing control. And two, it helped us survive during the whole shutdowns with coronavirus.
Right. Of course.
We were already prepared for it, and we didn't even know it. By having our online ordering system ironed out, perfect, ready to go from the opening, it was a very smooth and simple transition.
Wow.
Yeah, we just started gearing more people towards the online ordering, and orders kept coming in.
Yeah, like how you said, we were prepared and we didn't even know it. You know, I mean, it's and that's what, and you know, not everybody was prepared. Because
Unfortunately,
it's been a common theme, since we've been doing the show such a long time, and it seemed like, the theme of most of the interviews kind of focused on COVID and how everybody's working around it. But like you said, you were prepared, and that's fantastic. I mean, when we're thinking of Greek food, I mean, I love Greek food, Yianni, but I don't always get a chance. There's not a lot of places out here in my part where I live in Pennsylvania to get to eat, authentic Greek food. But I imagine your industry is pretty big. That there's a demand for authentic Greek food, isn't there?
There truly is. I mean, the restaurant industry in the U.S. is what, an $800 billion industry?
Yeah.
And you're in Pennsylvania and you can't find a decent Greek restaurant.
Right.
We're in California and we couldn't find a decent Greek restaurant. There are a couple full-service restaurants that do a decent to good job, but for the most part, anything we found is not truly authentic, and that's what we wanted to change. And we focused on the gyro sandwiches, simply because it's the burger of Greece. Just like people are used to going to in and out here eating burgers or whatnot. And in Greece, it's all about the gyro. And it does change a little bit from northern Greece to southern Greece. But at the end of the day, teenagers, they want the gyro. If you go out for a quick lunch, you're going to grab a gyro. Honestly, that's what we wanted. That's what we couldn't find. So we started it for ourselves, but with the potential to grow like we're doing now through franchising. And from the beginning, we set up with standardized procedures and so on and so forth. And truly, at the end of the day, it's so underrepresented that that's another pitch towards potential franchisees. That if you're looking for a food franchise, go get one of the hundreds or thousands of burger joints or one of the hundreds or thousands sandwich shops. Or come get one of the very few authentic Greek restaurants out there. If you really want to set yourself apart, you got to do something different.
I totally agree. I think that's very powerful. I've actually I've been to Greece, Yianni. I wrote a paper many years ago, and I got to present it in Athens, Greece. So I did get a chance to experience the food, and there's nothing like it. I mean, again, I haven't found in the States. I mean, it's certainly, as you said, it's different, and for you to bring that concept here to the States, and there's a demand for it. I think it's very exciting. What's been one of the most interesting things that's happened to you since launching Apola Greek Grill, Yianni? I imagine you probably have hundreds of stories, but does anything kind of like stand out to you over the years where you say, "Wow, that's incredible"?
Well, we're used to, from the other restaurants too and the diners, people telling us how important we are for the community, because we give back. But besides all the donations and charity work that we do, the fact that we give value for money for the meals, we've had people tell us that what we do is actually, it's a service, that we offer such good quality meals at that price. And that has rolled over into Apola, of course, but so we're used to that kind of feedback already. But what truly stood out with us with Apola was people coming up to us, Greeks from Greece, that born, raised, grew up in Greece, and now live here due to work or whatnot, coming up to us, some of them in tears, that they finally found something to remind them of Greece, something that truly feels and tastes like they're in Greece. Because we have Greek music playing in the restaurant all day long.
Yeah.
A couple Greek sayings on the walls. I don't know if you've seen any pictures of the interior. And we just try to portray that overall Greek hospitality from the moment people walk in to the moment they walk out. But at the end of the day, you can bring in designers, you can do whatever you want to do that whole image. Right. But if your food is not authentic, that's where you lose it. Yeah. And that's what got these people so emotional, and they were truly in tears. I mean, I was shocked. I thought something was really wrong when they came up to me. And one lady actually even hugged us.
Wow, that's incredible.
Thank you guys for doing this. Yeah.
That's how you knew,
that's probably
right?
Our
that's how you
story.
knew you had something. I mean, when you could bring someone to tears and you remind them of home, that's how you knew, and I'm sure that's, at the point you knew that you were ready to franchise the concept. And, speaking of franchising, Yianni, so what types of characteristics or traits do you look for in your prospective franchisees? If you're meeting with someone and they kind of express interest in becoming a franchisee, like how do you know that they're going to be a fit or a match?
Well, when we were getting set up for the franchise, we partnered up with kind of a veteran in the industry, if I may call him that. And one thing he told us to look for, he calls it the jerk factor, to make sure that the other person is not going to be difficult to work with. I like to typically elaborate on that. And, there was actually recently an advice piece that I wrote that got published about the characteristics that we look for. And it's truly just being open-minded, understanding that things do not happen overnight, and that you have to work hard. There's no, it's not a get-rich-quick scheme or anything like that. If you want to be successful in restaurants, you have to work hard. Whether you're an owner-operator or you're an individual that has 10, 15, 20 locations, you still have to work hard. You have to know the ins and outs of the business, whether it's how to properly clean the restroom, which I still do to this day if needed, or it's to cook, to clean, to do your payroll, to anything and everything. All aspects of the restaurant, you have to learn them. You have to know them. And yes, you'll have your key people to rely on, but ultimately you have to be able to jump in at any given time.
Wow,
I think that's top. We're looking for people that are willing to put in the work. If it's someone that thinks it'll be an easy ride and it'll be a Monday to Friday job for a few hours a day, then it's not for them. A restaurant to be done properly, it does require time, but when you put in the time, you also get rewarded for it.
There's a reward at the end of the road, right? Exactly. Yeah, I think that's powerful. How does the training work, Yianni? I mean, when you're, I mean, again, I know things are different today. It's like pre-COVID, but how does the training work? Maybe like in the past before COVID happened, and I'm sure you'll go back to the old ways. But how are you doing it now?
Well, it's not changing too much because part of it is, let's say, classroom training. So that would just be done via Zoom right now versus in person. So the classroom part, we would look at some fundamentals of management, the clerical work behind it, scheduling, all that stuff. But when we really dig into it is in person, both at our location and at the franchisee's location prior to opening, where we, if we can now with COVID, we actually bring some people in from Greece as well. To show proper cutting of the meats, proper wrapping of the pitas. And if we can't bring people in from Greece, well, the people that we're bringing were trained by those same people. So it just goes down. So, I mean, that all brings into the authenticity. And if we want this to follow through to our franchisees and their locations, whether it's another one here in California or in Pennsylvania or Texas or North Carolina or wherever, that has to follow through. And that's why we are going to focus a lot on the training for the proper wrapping, some tricks, here and there, the tests, how to test that, we do all that. And we do have quizzes as well because we know that everyone likes a pop quiz at the end of classes.
Of course. That's great. That's fantastic. I think that's terrific. How would you? Because again, you've been doing this most of your life. But for our listeners who don't know, I mean, is there such a thing as a typical day for an Apola franchisee? From kind of like prep, I guess a lot of prep in the beginning of the day, and it's probably a lot of ins and outs during the day.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, there's operations will start from prepping, restocking, making sure everything's in order, making sure everything is clean. There's a joke in the restaurant industry. A standard line is, "Who closed last night?" Because at closing, people are rushing to get out, and everything doesn't always get done properly. So part of opening in the morning is that you have to make sure that everything was done properly the night before. Closed down, cleaned. If it wasn't cleaned, you have to clean it. And on the owner manager side, it's the bookkeeping side, making sure registers closed properly, making sure all your inventory is in order. You're not going to run out of something for the day. Right. One thing we like to push all our managers for is double check your schedules, even if you're driving your employees crazy. Yeah. If you know someone is to not show up for their shift, call them every day to make sure they're going to show up for their shift. Right. And then, running through the lunch rushes or the dinner rushes, depending on the demographics of the area. But for the most part, in the beginning of the opening of the restaurant, I like to say there's no typical day. Probably takes at least a month, if not 2-3 months, depending how aggressive an operator is to put things, to get things on track. And also depends on the employees you find in the beginning. But it takes about a month to maybe 3 months to settle into a new location and find a routine. Right.
That's fantastic. Your family, I guess I could describe your family as being, entrepreneurial in the sense, that you come from a family of entrepreneurs and you're an entrepreneur. From everything you've learned up to this point, Yianni, what advice would you give to our listeners in their quest to buy a franchise? Because there is so much out there, in the food industry, and then there's like 75 other industries out there. We found that over the years that a lot of our listeners, when they want to get into franchising, they don't even know where to begin because they're like overwhelmed. So from everything that you've learned up to this point, what advice could you give our listeners in their quest to buy a franchise?
I would say to narrow your focus. See what you like, what you're passionate about. If you're passionate about animals, go for a pet franchise. If you're a foodie, if you're passionate about food or passionate about service, then go for a restaurant. But don't just go for a certain franchise because of the potential of what money you might be able to make, or because you see someone else being successful for it. You have to love what you do, especially in the restaurant business. You have to. You really have to love food and service and dealing with people and all that to be in the business. Right. If one thing that we grew up believing in, that we were taught, is that if you do what you love, it's not work. You're not working. You're doing your hobby. Yeah. I have no hobbies. People ask me what my hobbies are, and I said, no, I don't. I really don't have much hobbies.
That's your hobby, right?
I don't have many work. Yeah, I like great. I like powerful. Restaurants. I love opening restaurants. I love the challenge of opening restaurants, and that's what we do. That's what we do. We do our restaurants. We operate them. We open, and so that's it. I would just say focus on what you like, on what you love.
Yeah, it would be great if all of us could say that, right? It's is your hobby is doing your job, and not everybody gets to say that, and I think that's so powerful. So I can ask you the next question. Where do you see Apola Greek Grill, Yianni? If you can look into a crystal ball, maybe 3 years, 5 years down the road, where do you see the organization?
Well, that's a tough question. Yeah, actually, not so much a tough question. I'm more of a realist than an optimist. Right. Our advising consultant says that he sees Apola quickly becoming a national brand, quickly becoming a 1,000-unit chain. Right. Quickly could be 10 years, 15 years. I don't know. Sure. Right. I'm not a veteran in the franchising world. I'm new. Right. I like to kind of consider myself a veteran in the restaurant business. Sure. But our steps for Apola for the next few years is hopefully to get to about 10 to 20 location over the next 2-3 years. Yeah. And we are looking at hopefully launching a retail line of products soon as well.
Wow.
Just
That's
because
exciting.
we've gotten a lot of that'll be great. It'll be great to be able to go into a supermarket and get an Apola tzatziki, for example.
That's terrific. That is really exciting.
These are just some ideas, but we want it to become a household brand, a household name. We want it to become the place that people think of when they're looking for a good Greek gyro. You know, like, where should we go grab a gyro? It shouldn't be where should we go grab a gyro. It should be, let's go to Apola.
Exactly.
That's what we want to go. That's what we want to achieve.
That's fantastic. I think that's exciting. What's the best way for our listeners, Yianni, to get more information on Apola? I mean, should they go to, is there any websites that you like to kind of direct them to get more information?
Sure. They can go to our general website, which is Eat Apola. That's eat as in eat your food. And then Apola, A as in apple, P as in Paul, O as in Oscar, L as in Larry, A as in apple.com. And then click on franchise and request more information.
That's fantastic. Well, I can't tell you how much I've enjoyed talking to you today, Yianni, and I'd like to invite you back, if you don't mind, in the next year or two as you continue to grow, because I think this is a wonderful franchise concept.
Well, thank you very much. Thanks for helping us spread the word. I look forward to talking to you again.
This has been my pleasure, Yianni. We'll be right back with more franchise interviews.